Hey designers, have you ever heard, "That's not the right design, we need to still keep working at it"? Or, "No, this design, it's all wrong"? Well, I've heard those words too. And in this video, we're gonna talk about choosing the right design. I just wanna start out by saying, I'm sorry. Really, this is a little bit of a clickbaity title, but my hope was really to resonate with some of the feelings that we have over design. But I really wanted to strike a chord with the problems that we have in design with right and wrong, and sort of viewing design with this binary right-wrong mentality. So you're here, which means you probably have experienced it, or you're at least interested in understanding how to choose the best optimal and/or right design. All right, so let's dive into the topic. First, we want to frame up design. Now, we've explored design in other videos, and I'll link those up above here for you. But one of the things I wanted to talk about first is that design really is not a matter of truth. Now, let's stop and slow down and think about design for a minute. Many times, design is viewed as art. It's viewed with wishy-washy criteria, as everything being subjective, and design is not quite as subjective as we might think. Yes, there are lots of opinions, there are lots of views, but part of our job as designers is actually to tease out what is and is not working, tied to a clear problem and clear goals. So as designers, our job is actually to make design as concrete as possible, to make our concepts and our solutions as clear as possible so they can easily be understood within the frame of the problem we're solving for. So design is not art, it is not subjective. Design actually has clear criteria that we can judge the goodness or the fitment of our design solutions. Now, another inaccurate view of design is to think about it like science or logic, which it's not. Science and logic really get at trying to observe what the world is doing, what is actually true about the world, and then draw inferences and uncover the truth of the actual surroundings in our environment. Design doesn't work that way. Design doesn't deal with what is. Design deals with what could be. And so to think about design as if we are uncovering or unearthing the truth really does a disservice as well. Now, design sort of borrows from both of these categories, which I think is why we really want to gravitate to them. We really want to say design sort of functions like science, or design functions like art. And there are pieces of them that do, but it is its own distinct discipline. It's not completely communication through aesthetics or through form, and it's not completely understanding what is true about the world. There are elements of both of those, but we really fuse them together from the problem space, understanding what we're trying to solve for, what we're actually doing, to the creation space, really creating solutions that fit with that problem. And that's the goal of a designer. Design is not science, and it's not art. It is its own unique discipline. The output of design is not a statement of truth. The output of design is a concept of what might be. It's a specification for a solution that we will generate, or that we could generate. That is what design produces. I want to read you a quote from Christopher Alexander in his book, Notes on the Synthesis of Form. "Every design problem begins with an effort to achieve fitness between two entities, the form and its context. The form is the solution to the problem, and the context defines the problem." So what does this mean for design? What does this mean for designers? Well, let's dive into that. It means that design takes a lot of analysis. It means that we have to spend time understanding both the problem space and the solution space. The pains or the problems that push us to the need for a solution, both of them work together. So as we generate solutions, we are constantly always evaluating them against the actual problem area that we're working with. We can't just reject them outright or accept them outright. It's not a binary two-bucket approach. We can't just say, yes, good design, no bad design. There's actually going to be aspects and parts of both that we're going to need to analyze in a more individualized, more specific way. Now, this means designers are going to need time to focus. Designers are going to need time to really understand what the problem is. And as they create solutions, then they're going to need to be dissecting them and understanding what parts are working and what parts are not, what parts fit with the problem and what parts don't, so that they can go back and revise and create new and different ideas that are going to help generate innovative, powerful solutions for people. As humans, generally we really want these rigid clear lines. We want to draw a line in the sand and say either this or that. We want to see yes, no, good, bad, true, false, those kinds of very clear statements. And unfortunately, design just doesn't really work that way. Those make us feel comfortable because we know exactly where the boundary lines are. But designers don't really have the luxury of these very binary, very clear-cut lines and very clear-cut definitions. Much of design work is actually in a space that is very murky and very hard to understand. And so that's why designers often spend lots of times working to understand what the problem actually is, what the goals are, what we're solving for, so that over here we can generate clear, compelling, accurate solutions that really fit well together with the problem and the solution. A solution doesn't actually exist unless we have a problem. You can't create a solution to a nothing. And when we are working with a problem, we don't just generate and observe what the problem is. Designers are creating solutions to match. And so it's the fusion of the two that come together in design. So when we come to design as right-wrong thinking, this binary two-bucket method, we take entire designs and we're willing to reject them outright or accept them outright without really doing the deeper analytical work that makes design very powerful to understand what is and is not working, what fits and what does not fit. So our design evaluations aren't true false. We don't flip a light switch off and on or smash a button. It's more in depth than that. So the question really becomes then, how do we tease out and synthesize out what is working from some solutions to others? How do we figure out when to choose a design or when it's good enough? How do we know when to accept a design? Well, that's what I want to talk about next. So rather than looking at designs and sorting them out between two buckets, I like to think of it more on a spectrum. And we're thinking on a spectrum similar to a good, better, best type method. We want to create a good design, we can create a better design, or we can create a best design. You can also think about it on a scale of inadequate to optimal. And so on one side, you might actually have designs that just completely fail. They miss the mark. They don't even aim at the problem at all. Those kinds, you can actually just kind of lump together on one side of the spectrum saying they're not really efficient, they don't actually help us, they don't solve for what we need to solve for. Or another way of thinking about it is that it's a really great idea, but it doesn't work in the real world. We don't have materials strong enough to support that design, or perhaps we don't have the software capabilities to implement that kind of a feature. That's where we can kind of lump some of these together on the side that is more inadequate. And as you move through the spectrum, you're actually moving now more toward the middle, toward the adequate area. These are actually starting to address the problem. They actually are possible and they're feasible. Maybe they don't completely solve for every environmental or contextual variable, but they actually are aimed at the problem and they actually do relieve some of the pain. These are really where most of our designs lives, and honestly, that's where a lot of design actually happens. What we really want to shoot for, though, is not this adequate area. We want to aim for the optimal space. We want to aim for something that just really absolutely nails it and completely solves the problem and is completely feasible and possible in this world. So as we think about this, we're actually plotting designs more on a spectrum than we are on a two bucket. There's no real solid line that you're falling on one side or the other. It's more of a good, better, best. It is a spectrum of inadequate to optimal. And that is where we can actually begin to start evaluating how we do that. So when we're looking to place these designs on the spectrum, we're actually looking at the holistic view of the design. Is it aimed at the problem? Does it actually solve for it? We can actually do some testing of our design. In UX, we do lots of user testing and putting things in front of people to see, does it solve confusion? Does it help? Does it reduce the pain? Or maybe in material sciences, we're looking at different concepts and different ideas and stress testing and load testing them. So you can see that testing is very vital in this kind of a judgment area. Now, we can spend a lot of time as designers just sort of ruminating over and documenting out what we think is actually true, but when it comes to analyzing design, we're never going to know everything. And so this is where subject matter experts and lots of other people, our design collaborators, the people we serve, our customers, our end clients, those people can actually come in and help us evaluate our designs as well. And that's really the power of where design comes in, because a designer isn't ever going to know everything. It's the power of a designer working with someone else to tease out the information that they need so they can see the context of all the problems and all the constraints that the project is up against That then we can actually create these solutions that are optimal and fit super well. And then all of a sudden the client is happy, customers are happy when we're creating amazing designs that really do begin to start changing the world. Now, some people might want to go a little bit deeper, and sometimes cost is a big factor. How much does it cost to produce? How much time will it take? So we can think about this not just in a spectrum from inadequate to optimal. We're going to also add a second dimension here where we're looking at the cost of it. And so sometimes the cost is very high to produce, and maybe a customer or a client's going to want to shy away from that, or the stakeholder that we're working with needs something that's less costly. Okay, so if cost is a huge factor, some people may appreciate seeing as the designs are plotted from inadequate to optimal, where do they actually plot on a vertical axis then of cost? Is it a super high cost? Maybe that's not desirable. Is it very low cost? That's probably very desirable. And honestly, who wouldn't want something that's amazing and really free to us? So as we think about it, we really want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. So as we sit down as designers, we need to make sure that we're doing the difficult, intense focus work of creating lots of different options, but also then spending time analyzing them and making sure that they are actually aimed at the problem and that they conform to the constraints, they work within the problem space that we're in, and they do it well. So let's get back then. What about choosing the right design? Well, I'm going to suggest a gentle redirection of your words. Rather than saying, let's choose the right design or this design is wrong, let's talk in terms of good, better, best, or maybe even poor. This is a poor design because it's not aimed at the solution. Or maybe we think this is just not an adequate design. This is inadequate for what we need it to do. We can talk in terms of a spectrum rather than this binary right, wrong mentality. And this is really where the power of design comes in, because we may wind up with 3 amazing optimal designs. And then we can do some evaluative work. Maybe cost is the factor that changes it, or maybe there's another environmental constraint that we're up against that will help determine which one is actually best for us. And that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for the best possible design that totally transforms the space of the problem for someone. It resolves it, but it also works within the context of the problem space that we're in. Now, we might be a little bit nervous to lose that right judgment on our designs. This is the right design. And that's okay, and I can understand that. We want the surety and we want the weight behind a very clear judgment. But the problem is that when we talk in terms of right and wrong, if we talk in terms of this is the right design, and we have not accounted for every possible variable because we can't, then we actually run the risk of degrading trust and losing trust in designers and the power of design. This is why I really advocate for us to think more deeply about using terms like good, better, best, or optimal, or the best option available to us. That is why I think it's more powerful and a little more trustworthy and maps more to reality when we think about design. Now, the best part about this is when we lay out these designs on a spectrum or provide multiple options and explain why they fall where they do on the spectrum, we can actually get everyone on the same page. Designers can get people to rally around a particular design with excitement and enthusiasm, and everyone can say, yes, this is it. This is what we will do. And that's where the power of design is. Everyone doesn't need to say, this is my favorite. This is what I want to do. Everyone can come to the table and say, I can clearly see why this is one of the best options available to us, and I commit to doing this one. We will do this one. And that is where design really just can rally people and get people excited, because they can clearly see the thing in front of them. They can see what could be, and it's exciting, and it really solves for the problem that we're aiming for and works within the environment very, very well. So to sum this video up, design isn't about discovering what is right or what is wrong. Design really works to bring form to solutions. What could we do? This is a possible solution, and then the hard labor cognitive work of analyzing what is and is not working, what fits and what doesn't fit with the problem. So if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button. If you want to level up your design and creative abilities, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you get the latest content when it comes out, and hit that notification bell to ensure you're notified when it's ready. Thank you all for watching, designers. I really hope this has been helpful. I hope it's cleared up a little bit of this misconception of the right versus the wrong in design. And I hope it allows you to collaborate better with others and make more powerful designs and change the world because of it. Thanks for watching. Go make something awesome.